Alright, what up, database? It's time to read more of Who Censored Roger Rabbit. Alright, is it cozy here? Let's start reading. Alright, Chapter 5. I'll say one thing for the rabbit. He certainly was a persistent little bugger. As soon as I got back to the city, I spotted him again, hanging maybe half a block back, matching me move for move. He wore his trench coat slightly open, exposing purple lederhosen and an orange shirt. His hat brim scaled up on both sides against fully unfurled ears. Inconspicuous? Maybe at a clown convention. Certainly not on Sunset Boulevard at 2 in the afternoon. I debated whether or not to brace him again and give him another ultimatum. He'd probably just ignore it the same way he had the last. Obviously, not one to give up easily. That Rodger, a trait I admired in anybody, Toon Rabbits included. What the heck? If he is insistent on wasting his time hopping along in my footsteps, let him. So long he kept his distance and didn't interfere. I entered a big downtown office building. The rabbit ducked behind a lamppost across the street, doing his best to appear unconcerned in the presence of a small poodle sniffing at his hydrant red sneakers. On the building directory, I found the list saying for Carol Masters, photographer. I boarded a human-only elevator and rode it up to Masters' floor. I opened the door to her studio and ran smack into a pile of props big enough to challenge Sir Edmund Hillary. Masters herself, a human, thank God, since I didn't know if I could handle another tune today. Stood in the studio's only uncluttered space, a rectangular whitewashed area about 10 feet by 5 feet wide, or 10 feet long by 5 feet wide, positioning her lights and camera. She had her lean, authentic body nicely displayed in tight jeans and a blue t-shirt sporting an autographed photo of Casper the Friendly Ghost. Baby soft brown hair played tag with her shoulders. Her tongue underscored her concentration, with a thin layer of moisture traced across her creamy red lips. For the sake of male sanity, I hope she changed perfumes after sundown, since the one she had on could send every male within sniffing range out into the streets to bay at the moon. The lenses in her big, rounded glasses were the kind that reacted to skin temperature, changing color according to the wearier mood. going from dark amber to a rosy pink. Right now, they fluttered somewhere in between. Not happy, not sad, just doing a good day's work. Something I can help you with, she said. I laid a card on her and waited for her to read it. She held it up between us, as though comparing the written description with the real thing. Apparently, I measured up to my printed notice, since she mentioned for me to sit. Rummaging through the prop pile, I hauled a chair out from between a plastic palm tree and a bus stop sign. I reversed and straddled it, so I faced her across its back. I represent Rodger Rabbit, I told her. I'd like to ask you a few questions concerning his relationship to the syndicate. Ask away. She opened a corner cupboard, and from behind, half a dozen jugs of Toonshine produced a bottle of burgundy, which she held up with an empty glass. I nodded. She splashed out a healthy jug. I tilted it back, tossed it down, and the first one fast swallow, and extended my empty glass for a refill. You photograph the baby Herman strip, right? Carol joined me this round, sipping her wine slowly. I photograph baby Herman, yes, as well as a number of other greasy strips. And you were present a few days back when Rodger went after Rocco DeGreasy with a lunchbox. She nodded. Rodger accused Rocco of pressuring his wife to leave him. I've never seen a rabbit so angry. If I hadn't stepped between them, I think he might have done Rocco some serious harm. Any truth to Rodger's allegation? She studied a hanging photo of Rodger Rabbit. It bore the cutesy pie inscription you'd expect from a professional buffoon. Hop hop hooray for Carol. A sweet bunny, that one, she said fondly. My absolute favorite subject. No big star hang ups, never moody or temperamental. A joy to work with, absolutely adore him. She flicked on several spotlights to see how many dark corners she could illuminate without lengthening her own shadow. She pulled over two easy chairs, one for Dagwood, one for Blondie, and set a floor lamp between them. I believe Jessica left Rodger of her own free will, without the slightest bit of coercion from anybody. Why do you think that? I had seen men break other men's fingers with less force than Carol used to snap her wide angle lens. Who knows? She squinted into her camera, but jerked her face instantly away as though repulsed by the nastiness she saw on the other side. A real jerk. I'm not going to say what he said. She said. That Jessica, you ever met her? No, kind of hard for me to picture so much allure and such a devious nature in a female rabbit. Rabbit? No, don't be misled by her name. She isn't a rabbit. She's humanoid. She does mainly high fashion, cosmetic, and car ads. She went to her file cabinet, removed a portfolio, and passed it to me. Jessica Rabbit. A knockout. Every line perfection. Creamy skin, 120 pounds. Well distributed. On a sesculent, I don't know how he said. Frame. Stunning red hair. Or wait a minute. Statuesque frame. Stunning red hair. Easily able to pass for human. What did someone like this ever see in a toon rabbit? Carol retrieved the photos and studied them for a moment, as though trying to decide whether to return them to her files or pepper them with voodoo pins. Nobody knows. Before Rodger, she dated humans and other humanoid toons exclusively. Their marriage came as a total shock to everybody who knew them. She slipped Jessica's photo back into the darkness where she she seemed to feel they belonged. For about a year, it appeared to work. Jessica totally changed. She quit her carousing, quit bad mouthing her rivals, knocked off her on the set temper tantrums. She even went to several Blondie Bumstead's Tupperware parties. She made a bowl out of her hands and extended it towards the right hand chair. Then she decreased the cup of her hand to about the size of a rancid tart. Suddenly, almost overnight, the old Jessica came roaring back, shrieking at her photographers, backstabbing everybody who disagreed with her in the slightest. She and Rodger broke up shortly thereafter, and she went back to living with Rocco DeGreasy. She went back to living with him? You meant she lived with him before? Sure. She left him to marry Rodger, considering that Rodger had just stolen Rocco's girl. Nobody in the industry could understand why. A few weeks after the marriage, the DeGreasys signed Rodger into a long-term contract. Everybody figured that Jessica must have gone to them on Rodger's behalf. Rocco would have done anything, even given Jessica's new husband a contract, if he thought it would get her back. Carol picked up my card and reread the inscription. apparently concerned about my competence to practice my stated profession. I'm surprised your client neglected to tell you any of this. He didn't consider that. He apparently didn't consider it well relevant. I walked to the window where I could see the rabbit still trying to protect his sneakers from the poodle in the street below. Guess I'd better ask him why. Will you talk to Jessica too? Probably. Then let me give you some advice. Be careful. She has a nasty way of sinking hooks into photogenic men. Carol smiled, pointed her camera at me, and clicked the shutter. My luck held. The lens didn't break. Thanks for the warning. When I see her, I'll be sure and wear my armored undies. One last question. Have you heard the rumor that someone wants to buy out Rodger's contract and give him a starring role in a show of his own? Yes, I've heard of it. Rumors like that spring up with a lot alarming regular, regular, regularity in this business. Most often, they prove totally false. For Rodger's sake, I hope this one's true, but I wouldn't get, but I wouldn't bet on it. Before I left, I got her home address and phone number, just in case I decide to ask her a few of the more personal questions that kept jumping to mind every time I saw her move. Chapter 6. I slipped out of the building through a side door, crossed the street, and came up on the rabbit from behind. Surprise, I growled. I grabbed the rabbit's arm and hustled him unceremoniously down the street. I whizzed my reluctant companion past several human only and several tune only bars before we came to a grubby hole in the wall saloon, maybe 20 feet wide and 30 feet long, willing to serve both species. The bar, attended by a puffy-eared, flat-nosed human, ran the length of the right-hand wall. A bunch of derelict tunes held down one end. A bunch of derelict humans pegged down the other. The saloon's only interior decoration consisted of several framed newspapers welcoming Lindbergh back from parents as a subtle play on the common belief that certain humans, Babe Ruth, Mae West, the Marx Brothers, and of course Lindbergh, were really humanoid tunes who had crossed the line. I marched Rodger to a booth, sat him down, and slid in beside him, trapping him against the wall. A Tomb Raideress came over. In her younger days, she probably got mistaken for Dixie Dugan. Nowadays, she carried 40 pounds too much flab, 3 pounds too much makeup, and the resemblance leaned to more toward Petunia Pig. What'll it be? Boilermaker for me, I said, and a shine for the fur ball. She waddled down. She waddled to the bar to fill her order. The Robert wiggled himself some breathing room. I'm sorry, he said, misinterpreting the reasons for my anger. I know you told me to keep my distance, but I couldn't resist. My entire life, I've been a clown, acting out jokes for a living. Here I saw the chance to get involved in something serious for a change, and I took it. His right handed fingers started a frisky jig on the booth top, which his left hand fingers couldn't resist joining in. You can't imagine how exciting it's been for me just to follow you around and watch you work. Granted, I disobeyed your order. For that, I apologize. But to be honest, I'm delighted I did. I haven't had this much fun in ages. I'm glad I brightened your humdrum life. I sarcastically, I said sarcastically. Maybe you'll do something for me in return. The rabbit doubled up his ears so they wouldn't collide with the booth on the top when he nodded his head. Name it. Tell me about your wife. I said enough. I said with enough frost in my voice to turn the rabbit's nose blue. My wife, the rabbit's word balloon miserably failed its maiden flight, collapsing, half deflated across my shoulder. I grabbed it, squashed it into an hourglass shape, and tossed it right in front of him. Jessica Rabbit. I pointed to the mangled balloon. Your wife. Remember her? Oh, of course, Jessica. Rodger plucked the name from out of the air above of him and extended it to to me, pillowed in a cup of his palm. Jessica, she's my wife. I rolled the name into a tiny ball and flicked it into orbit off the end of my thumb. And also Rocco DeGracie's current romantic interlude. How come you didn't tell me about her? The rabbit twiddled the stubby ends of his ears. I didn't think it was important. I tilted my head back and rolled my eyes. Melodramatic. I know. But dealing with tunes seemed to have that effect on me. Your wife plays patty cake with one of the guys you work for, one of the guys who you say reneged on your contract, and you don't think it's important? My friend, you've got a lot to learn about what makes the world go round. Well, how come you didn't pry it out of me, said the rabbit, turning untypically militant in his own defense. I mean, you got some responsibilities in this case, too. The waitress brought our drinks while I fished out my wallet. She snapped a few stray ear puffs floating across the low ceiling. So maybe we both made a mistake, I said, figuring there to be a zip percentage in arguing with a bubble brain like Rodger. What do you say we, we chalk it off to experience and start over? Fine with me. Great, let's begin. Let's begin with how you and Jessica first met. The rabbit rolled his oblong pupils as as though reading the high points of his life of a crib sheet taped to the rear of his nose. We met one day at a photo session at Carol Masters' place. Yes, Jessica had just finished shooting a liquor ad, and I was there to do a supporting role in a jungle gym strip. This was, of course, when I was still doing bit parts before I signed with the DeGreases. We chatted for a while, nothing of any great import, mainly trade gossip and who got his contract dropped, who got a new strip, who got married, who had kids, who got divorced. Normal small talk. We seemed to get along pretty well, so I asked her to dinner. I didn't really expect her to accept, not with her being a humanoid and me a barnyard. But she did. We went to this cozy Italian place and had a delightful time. We talked and laughed and played kneesies under the table. She came back to my place for a drink. I made some popcorn, lit a fire, and played her a song on my piano. There, more as a gag than anything else, I proposed to her, got down on bended knee, the whole works. To my surprise, Jessica accepted. We flew to Reno and tied the knot. He commemorated it, the happy event, by looping his ears into a bow and bugging his eyes out into two perfectly matched hearts. You mean Jessica married you on your first date? Yes, I could hardly believe it. Same here. How long after your marriage before DeGreases gave you a contract? Almost immediately. How did it happen? One night, right after Jessica and I got married, we were sitting in our living room listening to our stereo. I told her how much I envied her, how it always been my fondest wish to be a well-known star. The next days, out of the blue, Rocco DeGreasy called up, said he had seen me in some of my supporting roles, said he thought I had enough talent to carry my own strip, and offered me a contract. Did you know about Jessica's previous relationship with Rocco? That she had left him to marry you? The rabbit nodded slowly. But I don't think she ever really loved him. I think he had something on her. Something dreadful he used to hold her to him. A girl as wonderful as Jessica would never voluntarily stay with anyone as awful as Rocco. Any chance Jessica might have been influential in getting you your contract? I don't know. Rodger's ears turned as limp as stalks of old celery. I always secretly suspected somebody she had probably had gone to Rocco about it. But I never asked her outright. I was afraid to. I desperately wanted to believe I had gotten it based on my own merits. Not because Rocco thought it might win Jessica back. Anyway, for a while, I was the happiest bunny alive. I had Jessica and I had a contract with the biggest syndicate in the business. And I had their promise to make me a star. So much for that part of Rodger's life where everybody had sung in tune. Now for later sessions where the notes had turned sour and the strolling violinist had left in disgust. What caused your marriage breakup? The rabbit's ears flopped over, double and wobbled side to side. Like a television aerial trying to successfully align itself with a very faint signal. It was a real mystery. We had been married about a year when, about 2 weeks ago, almost overnight, Jessica changed from a kind, wonderful, caring person into a shrewish, raving witch. Rodger's body sagged. You don't have any idea what caused the change? No, none. She refused to discuss it or even admit that she was any different. I suggested a marriage counselor, but she said no. She moved out on me and moved back in with Rocco DeGracy. Yeah, this is kind of a long chapter, so I think we're good for tonight. Where did I put the... I'll find it in a minute. Alright. See you all next time.